Hey there, travel lovers. It's your trusted cruise and Tauck Tour expert, Shawn Power here. As you can probably see behind me, I'm in an airport right now. You'll see I'm by a gate, and I've never done a video from an airport before, but I spend a lot of time in airports because I travel so much, so I figured it would be a good use of my time. But at the same time, there's no doubt announcements are going to be made, so maybe leave me a comment if this is too irritating of a way to do a video, but let's give it a try and see if the info I'm trying to share with you gets through, and hopefully it does. But anyway, today I wanted to talk to you about a fitting topic since I'm in an airport, and it's flights. All the time when I book people, when I book my clients on Tauck tours or ocean cruises or river cruises, whatever it is I'm booking for them, they always ask, should they book their airfare through Tauck or through the cruise line? And I just tell people the same thing every time. It's pretty much a no. 99% of the time, it just doesn't make sense. So even me personally, I've been on almost 100 cruises now. I've been on 10 plus Tauck tours, and I never book my airfare through the cruise line or through Tauck. Reason being, for starters, the price is almost always more. It's super rare that I don't go to an airline directly and see a better price than I would get with the cruise line or with Tauck, and sometimes it's very significant. I'll see business class flights that might be 3,000 to 4,000 a person with the airlines that are 5,000 to 6,000 a person with the suppliers. By booking with them directly, economy flights might be 1,000, and instead with the suppliers it's $1,500, $2,000. So pricing right away is almost always more when you book direct with the suppliers. At least in my experience, and I've been doing this a long time, 20 plus years and almost $100 million in bookings for my clients, so I've seen it all, and it's very rare that I find you do get a better deal with the travel suppliers. Now, even if you do, it's not always as good as it sounds. Reason being is it can be very restrictive. So, for example, when I'll just give you an example of Viking ocean cruises, Viking river cruises. They're pretty aggressive with their airfare offers. Sometimes they look really good. But what happens when you have a closer look is you realize, for starters, okay, if you book their airfare, you're not going to have any say of who you fly with, when you fly in, when you fly out, what schedule you take, how many stops that you make. I don't know about you, but I have no interest in booking those kind of flights personally. I want to know what airline I'm going with, what seats I have, the day I book, how many stops, where I'm stopping. So that's just me personally, and 99% of my clients are the same. So for starters, it's pretty restrictive that way. Now, with that said, you can pay Viking a fee to call them and customize and say, I want to fly with United or Air Canada or Delta or whoever, but they charge you $150 to be able to call them and talk to them. And even if you do that, it doesn't mean you're going to get what you want, because let's say they're selling you business class for $4,500 a person. Well, they might say, oh, that Delta flight you want is actually $6,000 a person, so you got to pay a $1,500 per person difference or whatnot, or something that's $999 for economy is actually $1,500. So that $150 fee only guarantees you can call them and talk to them and make some requests. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. So that can be an expense right there. And then also dates. Like, you never, and I write multiple articles about this. I'll probably do a video on it almost for sure one day. You never want to arrive the day that your Tauck tour starts, the day that your cruise starts. Reason being, most flights are late these days. And even if they're not, why are you going to drop 5, 10, 20, 30 grand plus on a trip and show up the day of, and you're going to be tired by the time the festivities start, and you'll be rushing through airports, and it just makes no sense. Also, a lot of Tauck tours and cruises start in great cities, so you want to get in a day or two early to enjoy those cities, because they are a lot of times iconic cities. I've flown in 8 days early to Tokyo to start a Tauck tour. I've flown in 4 days early to Rome to start, I think, a Crystal Cruises cruise one time. I remember on a Waterways river cruise years ago flying into Budapest 4 days early. So I always fly everywhere a minimum a day early just to make sure I get there, and many times I'll fly in 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 days, even a week early, because again, I want to explore the places. So the problem is, if we go back to that Viking example, they want to fly you in the day the cruise starts, and they want to fly you home the day it ends. And if not, you want to change your dates, they want to charge another $150 a person. So all of a sudden now we're up to $250 a person extra on top of whatever the prices are. So it's not as good a deal as it looks. And again, you still got a hassle with going through them, making the calls. You can't just pop online like you would with the airlines directly. So it's just one of those things where, look, if you're not comfortable doing your own airfare and going on the airline's website, absolutely let me know, and I can book your flight, or whoever your travel agent is, or if you book directly, it doesn't matter. But whether it's through Tauck or one of the cruise lines, yes, I can do it. Yes, your travel agent can do it, or like I said, that if you're dealing with them directly. But again, it's not always as good as it sounds. It's not something I recommend. I've never done it personally out of my over 100 trips with these suppliers because again, I just find I always get the best deal going directly to the airline. So some tips, like I said, always fly in at least a day early when you're booking your own flights. Just a smart thing to do. Um, it's just do not leave your vacation to risk by being late. I've seen it so many times where people made that mistake. So definitely, make sure that you get in early. For myself personally, I use Google Flights a lot, or I'll use Kayak a lot to do my research. So I'll just see, okay, I'll check Google Flights, for example, and it'll show me all the airlines. So I don't go to each individual airline site individually because that would take a long time. So I'll go to Google Flights and they'll show me the list of who's got the best price flights, the best times. Now I never just search by price. A lot of people do. Don't make that mistake. I'll happily pay $100, $200, $300, $500 more, depending if I'm flying. I pretty much do fly business almost all the time overseas and stuff and everything. So let's say it's an extra $500. It might sound like a lot, but if you can get a non-stop versus a one or two stop, it makes so much difference in the quality and comfort of your flight. And if you're spending thousands already, what's another few $100? At least that's my opinion. So just look at little things like that. Or if you're flying economy, it's $50 or $100 more to take a non-stop versus a one or two stop. I encourage you to do that. It will make it much better. It also helps avoid baggage connection issues and all that kind of stuff as well. And again, also make sure you book early when you're booking flights. Within North America, yes, you can book last minute flights and still get a good deal, but at least in my experience, when you're flying overseas, whether it's Asia, Europe, South America, whatever, I find that basically 6 to 9 months out is the sweet spot, and I book a lot of flights for myself. I find if you book right away when flights get released, they're probably at their highest. They're playing around with schedules. They're going to make a lot of changes. And if you book within the last 3, 4, 5 months, a lot of times there's just not many seats left, so they jack the prices up. So again, if you book early, and again, I find most of my flights I'm booking 6 to 9 months in advance. There's no great day that I know of. Book on a Tuesday, book on a Thursday, book on a Saturday. I know there's myths out there. Look, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know of any tricks. The only trick I know is that as soon as I know where I want to go, I'll go and I'll get an idea of what the pricing is, and then I'll just keep an eye out for deals. So all of a sudden, if it's, I don't know, Easter sales or Labor Day sales or Black Friday sales or whatever, if I'm looking at a business class flight that's $5,000 and all of a sudden I see it for $4,000 or $4,500, I'm going to book that right away because I already know, around what the price is. So then I'll be able to get an idea what a good deal is. So again, like I said, do it directly yourself if you're comfortable with that. At least, in my opinion, it's basically one of the best ways to do it. Now, a couple of exceptions to that rule. Sometimes, especially when you're booking long cruises like Grand Voyages or World Cruises, well, the cruise line might include free business class airfare. We say free, but it's included in your price. But the point is, yeah, that's hard to give up if it's included in your price. And I mean, like, they're not going to drop your price if you say you don't want the airfare. Because sometimes they'll say, okay, it's included, but if you don't want it, we'll give you $1,000 or $2,000 back or whatever. But if they say you're not getting any discount, whether you take the air or not, Viking does that actually quite a bit, well, then you might want to take their airfare. But you got to pay the $150 fee to be able to talk to them about what flights you're taking, and you're going to have to pay another fee, another $100 to change the dates. So again, obviously that might make sense because free is free, but at the same time, you're still probably have to go to pay some fees. Something else I talk about is airline consolidators. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but there's some companies out there who promote that they've got these really good discounts. I've had bad experiences with them over the years, so have a lot of my clients. I don't know the whole story, but it seems like a lot of times they're going to these, they'll go to an airline and I don't know, maybe they'll buy a flight for $5,000 and, they'll sell it to you for $4,000 and it's a nonstop flight. And then all of a sudden, like 2 months before your flight, they're going to say, oh, sorry, now, your flight got changed and now you're doing a one-stop flight. It seems very intentional from what I can see that they're like later on booking cheaper flights because that's all they collected from you. So, and I think they use points sometimes and they cancel them and rebook them. So in my experience, I've just seen changes. Literally, I tried them twice over the years. Both times it was a horrible experience. Once was during COVID, couldn't get any money back from them. I had to call American Express. I did get my money back from Amex, but the point is they were just awful to deal with. And I've had so many clients say the same thing. So I only go to airlines directly because in my experience, airlines have the best deals. Now, unlike a cruise line or Tauck, you are going to get the best deal through a travel agent like myself because we have buying power and they still give us perks that you can't get directly. But airlines don't do that. With airlines, they're pretty much just giving you the best price on their website. So that's why it makes sense to book the air directly, but not necessarily your cruise or your Tauck tour. Um, Beyond that, a couple of small things. When you're flying, use air tags because bags do get lost, bags do get delayed, and you just want to be able to track those when you're at the airports and stuff. It doesn't matter who you book with; these things happen. If you book with the cruise line directly, it's not going to save you. They're not going to be able to find your bag any faster than the airline directly. So again, you're not getting any extra protection by booking through the travel supplier. And also, people think, oh, I can find the day my cruise starts if I'm booking through the travel supplier because they'll hold the ship for me because they booked my airfare. That is absolutely not going to happen. If you're going on a ship with thousands of people on board and you and maybe 2 or 3 other couples are late, they are not holding a ship with thousands on board that costs them thousands of dollars in fuel to delay. It's just not going to happen. They'd rather just help you get on the next flight to the next port, which again kind of ruins your trip that you paid a lot of money for. So again, even if you do book with the supplier directly because it's included or something like that, get in early. It's my biggest recommendation. So again, just to sum up, I never book my airfare through Tauck or through the cruise lines directly. Literally, maybe 1% of my clients do have me book that for them, but almost no one does. And it works out well every time. People are happy to take control over their own flights, and they don't need to mess around with what day they could fly in or what schedule they can get because they're just going to the airline and they're picking it themselves right off the bat when they book their flight. So anyway, hopefully you got some value out of this. I also wrote a big article on this, probably a couple of more tips in there I forgot, but I will put the link below so you can check it out. Any questions, just leave me a comment or get a hold of me on my website, and I'd be happy to help you out any way I can. Beyond that, have a great day, and hopefully there wasn't too much noise here in the airport. Bye-bye.